Today we're going to be looking at different type of economic systems around the world, and this will be our last set of notes for Unit 1. So they're Unit 1, notes number 4. In the textbook, you'll be able to find them on pages 34 through 37. So hopefully this will bridge over some of the things you learned in econ last semester. So we are still comparing forms of government. How should political and economic power be distributed in a society? So in today's notes, we'll be looking at the economic side. And we're going to classify and evaluate various economic systems and identify the role of government in each. So economic systems around the world. Just as forms of government vary from one nation to the next, so do economic systems. Resources are always limited. There are three fundamental economic questions that all economies answer, and based on the way they answer these three questions will determine kind of what economy they have. So the three fundamental economic questions are: what goods and services should be produced? How should these goods and services be produced? How should people share goods and services? So based on how countries answer those questions, and also who is answering these questions for the country, will determine their economic system. Economic systems differ from one country to another because each society answers these questions in its own way. Countries also differ in how they use what economists call factors of production. So, factors of production are land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. The way a society uses these factors of production is determined by its economic system. Economic systems around the world continued. In a society with a traditional economy, people rely on time tested customs to answer the three fundamental economic questions. Remember, those questions were: what goods and services should be produced? How should these goods and services be produced? How should the people share goods and services? People in a traditional economy provide for themselves. So, again, a traditional economy, think hunter gatherers, nomadic people. Like I said, very, very traditional, very maybe I'm trying to think of the correct term to say, but they don't have a lot of maybe structure in their society. So, in a traditional economy, the production and distribution of food, clothing, and shelter is woven into the fabric of society. Economic activities do not need to be coordinated or regulated in any way by the government. So, you have a lot of people in a traditional economy provide for themselves. They're farmers. They just make enough to have basic necessities. So the quality of life tends to be low, but people, again, meet basic needs and don't necessarily have luxury type items. So in a country with a market economy, individual producers and consumers answer the three basic questions. So instead of just kind of leaving it up to custom and tradition like a traditional economy, now we're letting the individual people. And so a market economy can also be called a free enterprise system. It can also be known as capitalism. And so we're letting the market drive itself. So one advantage of a market system is its efficiency at meeting people's needs. Because as one product becomes popular, businesses know we need to produce more of that product. However, a big disadvantage of a market economy is its instability. We'll have times of recession, depressions, economic depressions, and you can't always predict these things. Inflation. Another disadvantage of a market economy is its unequal distribution of wealth. So not everyone is going to have the same amount of money. Some people will be very rich, some people will be very poor, and so it's just kind of a characteristic of a market economy. In a command economy, the government answers the three basic economic questions. And so a command economy can also be referred to being based off of socialism and communism. And so, in theory, a command economy has distinct advantages over a market economy because you have someone, the government, making these decisions, setting prices. Everyone works. In a perfect world, everything should work out. However, in practice, the performance of command economies have been disappointing because even though the government officials, should be making decisions, they still aren't as good as a like the market in a market economy as predicting what is going to happen. The core problem in a command economy is that government planners, no matter how well intentioned, are less efficient at making economic decisions than the market is. And so here's a little chart to give you comparison. It's also in the textbook of just some key features of a market economy versus a command economy. Some of the advantages, some of the disadvantages to kind of go back and forth between the two. What are the major distinctions? And then lastly, so in the real world, most countries have mixed economies that fall somewhere in between those extremes of a market economy and a command economy. A mixed economy blends reliance on market forces with some government involvement in the marketplace. So for the most part, we see the US, our economy, as free enterprise, market economy, consumers, entrepreneurs, we make these decisions, and based on the market, businesses succeed or fail. However, we do have some government regulation to try to prevent monopolies, ensuring that products are tested and safe for consumers. So we do have some elements of government regulation over the free market, but it is very, very minimal. So these are the end of the notes. You want to make sure you go back and you do all of your key terms.